Hello everybody and welcome to another video of DIY investing. For today's video, we're going to be breaking down our 4-year cycle time frames, taking a look at every single one of our last 4-year cycles, analyzing the time that it's taken before we got our 4-year cycle bottom, and comparing it to what we're seeing today. Everything is lined up perfectly with what we've seen in prior cycles, and for today's video, we're going to break it down and exactly how to profit off of the move that's coming. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into it today. Alrighty guys, so for today's video, we're going to dive straight into the 4-year cycle time frames. I see so much confusion. So many people are worried about the shorter time frames, which is understandable. The shorter time frames do look bearish. The price action is bearish. We've seen lower lows and lower highs all the way throughout this, and we did just make a lower low with the FTX collapse. As far as the short-term trend goes, we are bearish, and it is looking like we will see downside. Now, with that being said, what does the big picture look like? And this is where I want you guys to really pay attention. And this is the big reason why I've been okay with accumulating certain select altcoins, accumulating certain new positions, because of the simple fact, if we're looking at the 4-year cycle time frame, which I've been able to make a lot of money off of following thus far, we are screaming a much better buy signal than there is any sort of reason to be selling. And we're going to get right into that right now. Now, first things first, guys, what we are looking for inside of a 4-year cycle, and the way that you measure a 4-year cycle is by going from peak low of the bear market to peak low of the bear market, and the distance in between should equal 1,450 days. That is how long 4 years is. Now, if we come over here and we take a look at our very first time in which we made a true 4-year cycle, and the reason why I believe that this was the first time we made a 4-year cycle is because this was also the first time that there was enough liquidity inside of Bitcoin and it had a high enough market cap to really dictate big money buying and selling inside of the market cycles. And so if we come over here, I don't find it coincidental that if we measure from the 2015 Bitcoin bottom at about $100 or $200 and measure it all the way to the bottom that we saw at $3,200 in 2018, it equals almost exactly 4 years. And once again, if we come in here and take a look at the same distance in time from our 2018 cycle low at 3,200 to the very lowest point of the FTX collapse, it's the exact same distance as that last cycle of 2015 all the way to 2018. And so it's not confirmed yet. We know that we can still have a potential of one more sell-off. And if that one sell-off actually happens, how does that factor in with the 4-year cycles? And this is where I want you guys to really pay attention. First things first, let's talk about this first cycle here. Now, the distance that it took from the all-time high to the all-time low before the very ending of that bear market was complete, it was about an 85% correction from the high to the low, and it was also about 413 days from the exact high to the exact low. So as you guys know, 365 days is the average length of time inside of a bear market. They're going to vary, obviously. It's not always going to be perfect in the exact same way that this one wasn't 1,450 days. This one isn't going to be exactly 365 days, but that is something that will shift. The big thing that we're trying to look at is the rough estimations of time. What we're looking at is 4 years from the peak low to the peak low. The bear markets can vary because it's not like there's some specific given threshold that the bear markets have to be. We're not following 1-year bear market cycles necessarily. What we're following is the 4-year cycles because that's what's much more easier to follow and it's much more accurate. And so the bear markets are going to vary, but as a rule of thumb, what we have seen in years past is them equal about 1 year from the high to the low. And it was actually this 2014 to 2015 bear market that was the longest one that we've ever seen, and that one was 413 days and an 85% correction from the high to the low. Now, that is what gives us our 4-year cycle input, right? The very low of the cycle, that's where we give our next input. And if we go 4 years from that point, that takes us to the exact bottom of that 2018 cycle. Now, the 2018 bear market followed a little bit better, more consistent inside of what we would expect to see inside of a 4-year cycle. From the high to the low, corrected about 84%, and from the high to the low equaled almost exactly 1 year. This one was 364 days, right? And so we are going to see a little bit of a difference. This bear market was 413 days. This one was 364, but the big thing I want you guys to remember as we fast forward into our current cycle, we are all waiting for the next projected 4-year cycle low. And so we don't have it confirmed yet. We don't know when that low is. As of right now, where we can draw a data point was the FTX collapse. And so even though the price action is bearish, even though the PA looks like we are going to see one more low, the big thing that we need to paying attention for on the big pictures is analyzing our 4-year cycle time frames. Now, remember guys, we saw our bear market bottom around December the 10th of 2018, and that took us to about $3,200. So that was our last data point. And if we measure from that lowest low of the bear market all the way to the lowest low that we saw after the FTX collapse, it's the exact same distance as what we saw from 2015 all the way to 2018. And so as it stands right now, if the bear market holds at the lowest low that we made when the FTX exchange collapsed, then we are looking at the exact same time frames as our last 4-year cycle. And on top of that, if we analyze from the cycle high at 69,000 all the way to the lowest low that was made at 15.5K after the FTX collapse, we're looking at 364 days, the exact same distance of time that our last bear market in 2018 lasted. And so guys, we don't have confirmation, and that's the big thing. My light's turning on and I shut it off. That's weird. And so the big thing to pay attention for is the fact that we don't have our confirmation yet. We don't have confirmation just based off the fact we haven't extended enough time, right? The big thing is we don't have a foundation yet. In our last cycle, after we bottomed, after exactly 1 year from the cycle top, we went through about 75 to 100 days worth of sideways accumulation that took us to the breakout. And so as it stands right now, our price action does look more bearish than prior cycles, just simply because of the fact we did just break through an extended period of support and we retested it as resistance. And so as it stands right now, it does look like we will potentially see one more low inside of the crypto total market cap as well as Bitcoin. And if that's the case, this will be the longest bear market that we have ever seen. And that's kind of the big thing I want you guys to pay attention for right now is let's assume that we get one more lower low. Let's say, you know, this lower low takes us to around 12.5 to even 10.5K, and we have one more final sell-off. Well, if that's the case, we would be looking at about an 80% correction from the all-time highs. I would say anywhere from about 80 to 85% depending on how low we go. And we would be looking at about a 430-day bear market approximately. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen, and so we're kind of just estimating at this point. But if that's the case, this bear market would be a longer time that we've spent inside of it than even our longest bear market thus far, which was taking us all the way back to 2013 to 2015. And so keep in mind, guys, that rules are meant to be broken, but the big thing I want you guys to remember here is even if we extend a little bit deeper, it doesn't change the big picture on the 4-year cycles. In the same way that this one was actually shorter than a true 4 years, 4 years is 1,450 days. In the same way that this one was shorter, and this one was also shorter, we could see an overextension of, a month or two. It's not going to change anything on the big time frames. And so if that's the case, and if we're looking at around, sometime mid-January to early February being our projected bottom, if we see one more lower low, then that's going to be taking us to about 1,500 days from our last cycle low. So it's not really that far different. It would be about a 50-day extension. Keep in mind that this one inside of our last cycle was about a month shorter than a 4-year cycle. So in those exact same ways that we're not going to nail it exactly 100% right on the dot, I think that the same thing should be said and made aware of inside of our current bear market so you're not caught off guard, right? We know that the FTX low lines up perfectly with 4-year cycle lows, right? And on top of that, what we would generally see at the very bottom of a cycle is a mass capitulation type event, right? In 2018, we held support above 5,800 for like 8 months or something like that. And then we immediately sold off and we had a 50% decline that took us straight into our bottom of our 4-year cycle. So this one was a massive capitulation event. The same thing could be said over here inside of that 2018 bear market, where we pretty much corrected from mid-November all the way up here at about $400, and we ended up bottoming all the way down here at $200. So that was about a 50% drop that we saw just in that final month that led us towards capitulation. But the big thing to be aware of is the fact that this was a massive capitulation type of event, right? 85% correction from the all-time highs after a 50% drop just in our final low, right? From here to here was a 50% drop. Now, the same thing can be said here. We held support above this $5,800 level, but when we broke down here to the bottom was about another 50% drop. And so it's kind of hard to say exactly what's going to play out in this bear market. At the end of the day, we only have to do what we can do in the market, which is simply wait, right? We know where our 4-year projected bottom is. We know that the FTX collapse lines up well with the projected bottom. But the way the PA looks, it looks a little bit more bearish, which tells me we have the equal as much opportunity that we still see one more lower low before our 4-year cycle bottom can be in. Nonetheless, guys, if we see a lower low, it will be an overextension longer than prior bear markets that we've seen up to this point. But the big thing I want you guys to remember here is bear markets are bound to be a little bit different. They're going to vary from time to time. In our bear market from 2013 to 2015, this one was 413 days. Our 2018 bear market was 364 days. And thus far, if we bottom at the FTX collapse, we're at the same distance from our last bear market and 4-year cycle. If we decide to go for one more final low, then it will be a little bit longer than that 2013 to 2015 bear market, but it's not going to be that much longer. It'll be a couple weeks longer than that one. And so it really won't change anything on the big picture. You know, the distance between our 2018 bottom and if we do see one more lower low will also be a little bit extended, but it'll only be a couple months extension. It won't be anything too crazy. And so I want you guys to pay attention for this, just as a way to basically help you guys understand that right now on the big picture, we are screaming buy signal. And the thing I want you guys to remember here is the fact that we've already corrected 77% from the all-time high. The very lowest point of this was 83%. This one was 85%. And so a pattern that has played out up to this point is that our bear markets have been less volatile every single cycle. That's not something that has to happen just because our last 2 bear markets were that way. We can invalidate that. We could see one more lower low and this one could drop at the exact same threshold as our last 2 bear markets. We can't write off that potential just because there's a 2 trend change, just because there is a trend that has played out in our last 2 bear markets. But if we're looking at this as being a 77% correction, I mean, we really only have, 7% left until we're right at that exact same threshold. And so by being so scared out of buying right now and potentially missing the entire low point opportunity of this bear market, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to do that, all because of a 7% difference, right? Even though it's just a 7% difference, that 7% difference is going to be the difference maker between people buying the bottom or simply just ignoring the bear market entirely and missing out and having to watch as, this market rallies all the way back up to around 30K and they missed out on that golden opportunity to accumulate. Don't be so shaken out by the potential of another 7% drop inside of the market cap when what we're looking at is a very big and obvious trend of our 4-year cycles being at a major bottoming point. And so for me, guys, this is kind of why I've been willing to accumulate specific altcoins. I don't care if I'm going to be short-term down. I could hold throughout the entirety of 2023 at, break even to a slight loss to slight profit in the same ways that I did that in our last bear market. You guys got to keep in mind, if we come over here and look at ETH was one that I was accumulating pretty heavily inside of that last cycle. And the reason, and one of the big things with accumulating ETH was the fact that it went sideways for so long. I'm prepared for that same thing to happen, right? This one was like 500 days that it spent inside of this accumulation range. There's periods where I was up in profit. There was periods where I was down at a loss. The profit was big and the loss was big, and that's the way accumulation works. And so for watching this, guys, I really think that it should be very apparent that nobody is letting themselves completely miss out on the opportunity of accumulating in a bear market over the potential of a 7 to 8% drop, right? I just don't think that that should be a big focus in everybody's eyes. If we get that drop, like I've stated many times, prepare, have money on the sidelines ready to buy. If you've been watching certain altcoins, it will be an opportunity of a lifetime to get into those. Even just buying Bitcoin and Ethereum will be smart, right? Now, with that being said, if you haven't accumulated at all throughout this entire bear market and you're so hung up on the potential of a 7% drop, chances are you're going to miss out entirely on accumulating it and you're going to get left behind probably in a similar fashion as what we saw here in 2019, where the market, bottomed and it literally just took off straight back up. I would not be the least bit surprised to see this bear market play out similar to what we saw over here. It doesn't have to go as high. It could literally stop here or, somewhere in between the mid-range point, and it would still take us all the way back up to 30K. Had you have not been willing to accumulate throughout this entire dip, once we hit 30K, all of those people that weren't accumulating are going to be beating themselves up in the exact same ways that I was here when I watched this opportunity to accumulate at these cheap prices, and I didn't accumulate as much as I could, and then Bitcoin skyrocketed straight to 14K, right? You don't want to be on the opposite end of the trend. We know that the 4-year cycle bottom is flashing a major buy signal. Even if we get a lower low, it doesn't change the big picture. It just gives us another opportunity of getting in lower. And the move that comes after will catch people off guard. Most people will miss out on it, and then they'll end up FOMO buying the top and probably having another one of these crazy things on the way down. You're better off just having the conviction to buy in the bear market. We're already down 77%. That's far enough for me to consider buying. And so for that, this is my trading plan. This is what I wanted to share with you guys. If you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys want to join the Discord server, download my free ebook. Links are in the description for that. Thank you guys a lot for all of the support throughout this bear market. The channel's been dipping. We've had loss of subscribers. We've had views going down. But at the end of the day, that's typical inside of a bear market. We're not some huge channel by any means, but the fact that you guys are still here supporting makes me really happy, just because this is what I want to do. I love to talk about the charts. I love to cover crypto for you guys, and most importantly, I want to see you guys make a lot of money. And so these are my mistakes that I've learned from based off of my 6 years in crypto. I'm never going to be perfect. I'm always going to make mistakes. I screwed up at the cycle top, but in those same ways that I screwed up, I learned something very valuable, and everything that I'm doing on this channel is me trying to teach you guys all the stuff that I've learned. Learn from my mistakes, learn from my failures, learn from my successes as well, and potentially you yourself can actually make more money. That's what my hope is. I want you guys to make more money than I've ever made in crypto, because at the end of the day, all of that wealth trickles down. The better that I do, the more that I can teach you guys how to be profitable, the more that you're going to be able to help other people in return. And that's always been the goal of this channel, to be able to help people make financial freedom, opportunity, and just get themselves out of crappy situations that they found themselves in because of, maybe poor parents, maybe bad family values, who knows what it is. Everybody struggles with their own things. But I want you guys to be able to make it. And with this being so close to the bear market bottom, I'm excited because I know exactly what this leads to. And I'm just excited for the people that are here supporting this channel, that have been supporting this channel throughout years, or maybe you just found me. Thank you guys so much for the support. I love each and every one of you. And from the very bottom of my heart, I want to see you guys make it. Thank you so much for watching. And with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.